we're going to read page 322 in our social studies book together. Just like we do in class, I want you to keep your finger on the page and I want you to follow along with me while I read. Your brain's going to be seeing it and it's going to be hearing it. So it's learning the information in two different ways. Before we begin, our vocabulary word for this lesson is aid. So we're going to pay attention to that word when we get to it so we make sure we understand the meaning. Okay, let's begin. Put your fingers on the title, Our Nation and the World. Build on what you know. Have you ever worked with a friend to solve a problem? I'm going to stop right there. Tell me in this video, what did you have to do to solve the problem with your friend? Sometimes nations work together to try to solve problems. Just like you and your friends, when you solve problems with each other, you have to talk to each other about it. You have to work it out and try to understand how they're feeling, and they have to understand how you're feeling, and you're going to have to work on changing a behavior to fix the problem. Well, with nations, it's the exact same thing. They have to talk to each other to work things out. They might have to make changes in what they're doing to work things out. So we're going to be looking about how our country works with other countries too, and all over the world countries are working together to become better. Here's our next paragraph. Nations help each other. Go ahead and put your fingers on. The United States is one of more than 200 nations in the world. That is a lot of nations in our world, 200. Nations work out ways to help each other. If storms destroy crops in one nation, other nations may send aid. Aid is help. So the word aid here is any type of way they can help each other. It can be money, goods, or services. What goods or services might people need after a big storm? Moving on to our next page. I'm going to turn my camera over here. Sorry about that. Here we go. Here we have a picture of a previous president. He was president way before you guys were alive. This is President Jimmy Carter. So this has been going on for many, many years, not just right now today. So in this picture, he's meeting with the president of Egypt at that time and with the prime minister of Israel at that time. They were coming together and they signed a peace treaty between the two countries. So you see they have to work together and talk to each other to work problems out. So this is our next paragraph here. Leaders work together. Let's put our fingers on, ready to follow. Every nation has a government. Government leaders from different nations work together. They talk about how to make the earth cleaner and safer. Leaders have meetings about trade, health, and peace. Government leaders travel to visit each other. They stay in touch by phone, mail, and the internet. Why do leaders from different countries work together? And on the next page, we have some examples of leaders from around the world meeting with each other. It says meetings around the world. Here are a few places where world leaders have met to discuss problems. And we see on the map, the United States is highlighted and there's a line, so they're going to show who the United States met with. And at this time, we see this was President George W. Bush when he met in Washington, D.C. with President Vladimir Putin from Russia. And over here, there's a map of China, and they have a line going to this picture. And at that time, Jiang Zemin, the president of China, met with Prime Minister Tony Blair of Great Britain, and they met in Beijing. And South Africa, back to the map over here in Africa. This is South Africa. There's a line going through to the picture. Here we have the Palestinian leader, Yasser Arafat, who met with President Nelson Mandela of South Africa in Johannesburg. So these are not current leaders, actually. These are older leaders. And this has been going on for many, many years. Now we have newer leaders who are doing the same thing. Why are meetings with leaders from different countries important? Next, give an example of government aid. How can countries help each other? And the last question for today, what are 2 ways that government leaders from different countries stay in touch with one another? How can they contact each other?